if you're a fiduciary, if you run your own firm, fee only, fee based, this is not really for insurance only or annuity only producers. But if that's you and you're wondering why your marketing just isn't scaling, why you can't remove yourself from it, why it's not profitable, and why other firms are absolutely crushing it with digital marketing and they're just like scaling extremely fast. Believe me, we've seen some ridiculous results just in the past year. This is exactly why. All right, and in this video, we're going to go through everything because if you don't know me, my name is Nick Chaporian. I'm the founder of Apex Acquisition, and over the past 5+ years, we work with most of the fastest growing advisory firms in the industry, and we've partnered with over 300 firms on a consulting and done for you basis. And there's a recurring theme among all the top 1% advisors that I've identified, and this is not even like a correlation. This is not, oh, most of the successful advisors do this. When I tell you, this is what determines success. If you don't have this, you cannot scale your marketing. It is going to be impossible. You can work with as many lead vendors as you want, as many marketing agencies as you want. It just won't work. Heck, you can even work with us and it will still not work. This needs to be in place for you to scale your company. Bottom line, right? Whether it's just you, whether you have a big team, no matter what the structure, the operations of your business, the size that you're at, you need this to be able to scale. And ultimately, if you implement this correctly, you're going to, as the title says, essentially get clients for your firm for free. All right. Getting your clients to pay for your marketing so you never need to set aside a marketing budget. All right. Now, I will warn you, this isn't sexy. And it's probably not the shiny, fancy thing that you want, but the prerequisites to being able to do this is, firstly, being able to financially model your business and track your KPIs and your numbers. All right. It's incredible the amount of advisors that do this for their clients, right? You probably do this for your clients. You probably model out, when they're looking to retire, when the client's looking to retire, how much income they need in retirement, how much income they're going to need each year in retirement, what they're on track to currently generate, what they would generate with your suggested portfolio, how much money they might be left over with, right? You do the financial modeling for your clients, but most firms don't do this for their own business and their marketing. And without it, you literally cannot scale. And like I said, this is the biggest determining factor for success. This is not a correlation. If you don't do this, it will be impossible to scale your firm, period. But if you do it correctly, we'll go into what success looks like with this and what's actually possible. Because believe me, it's incredible. And I have a picture of a freaking some salad on a table because I went to dinner with one of our clients in New York City. And when he came to us, he had all the same problems most firms have, right? His marketing wasn't working. He had worked with a bunch of marketing companies and none of them could generate results. And, he'd wasted $100,000 on marketing and, he couldn't remove himself from it. He was doing seminars. They were crushing it. But every time he stepped away from the business, it stopped growing, all the same problems. And, obviously when he came on board, we stressed this heavy with our clients, like track your numbers. And, we give them all the processes and stuff to do it. It's not necessary, but, you could just do this on your own. But we gave him everything. And throughout the entire year, he came to me at this dinner and he showed me on his phone all of his numbers, all of his metrics mapped out on his phone, accessible anywhere. And it almost brought a freaking tear to my eye. So this is incredibly important because most firms don't know their client lifetime value. They don't know what a client's going to be worth to them over a lifetime, right? How do you know how much you can spend on acquiring a client if you don't know what that client down to the dollar is going to be worth to you? They don't know their cost per appointment. They don't know their cost per conducted appointment. They don't know their close rate, right? Most advisors will say, put anyone in front of me and I'll close them. It's just not true, right? What's your actual close rate? We need a number, right? They don't know their cost to acquire a new client, right? You can't scale without these metrics in front of you. And there's a million others. This is just a fraction of them. But your CPM to reach, what's your cost to reach people? What's your click-through rate? So what's the overall engagement on the content, on the ads, on the videos that you put out, all that stuff, right? What's your cost per click, cost per lead, cost per booking, cost per consult conducted, your cost per acquisition, your show rate, your close rate, your lifetime value, your lifetime gross profit per client, your first year of value. So the first year of value of a client coming on board, what are they worth to you the first year? And if you think this is, unethical, I've heard advisors say this, oh, I don't want to think about my clients in terms of numbers. I don't want to assign a number to them. You need to. Otherwise, you cannot spend money on marketing profitably. And by the way, I know there are free ways of acquiring clients. We help our clients with some of those that don't require you to spend anything. The bottom line is you're always spending something. We'll get into that in a moment. But you need to know the value of every core metric in your business. And it's not enough to have an estimate, right? And so we've got all kinds of cool tools that we give our clients, right? That make this process a lot easier. We do it for them, all this kind of stuff. So tracking the metrics every single day, line by line, what's actually happening month over month, so you can identify problems, right? Because ton of firms have inconsistency problems, right? So they don't, month to month, things are swinging, clients are leaving, clients are coming in, annual recurring revenue is going up and down, and they don't know how to control it, right? Numbers give you predictability. So this is the level of detail that you need to go into if you want to scale your marketing. Bottom line, right? So, of course, we hammer these foundations before we work with any client, firstly. But there's really a reason why. You might be wondering, why is this necessary? It's really because massive firms like Fisher, for example, spend insane amounts of money on the same platforms that you're looking to advertise on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on even YouTube advertising. Fisher spends $300,000 a month on Facebook ads. Who do you think is going to outbid you for the highest quality prospects and the most volume of prospects? Is it going to be you spending $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 a month on Facebook ads, working with a marketing agency? Or is it going to be Fisher spending $300,000 a month? Or us, right, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a month? You're just going to be left with the crumbs. You're just kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel. And this is why your leads are low quality, because you don't have complete view on what a client's worth to you, on what it takes to get someone in the door, where to go, where to allocate your dollars. Without this, it's impossible. It's really just like entering a gunfight with a switchblade, truly. So a lot of firms will come to us and say, we get hundreds of advisors booking calls with us every single month. And they'll come to us and say, I want to add $50 million to my firm. And we'll ask them, okay, well, what are you pacing right now? And what did you do last year? Okay, so you know that. Now, do you know exactly how many clients it's going to take to get to 50 million? Do you know what it's going to cost to acquire those clients? Do you know where you can hit that customer acquisition cost that makes it possible to hit $50 million? Do you know the timeline that you have to hit it in? All these things. And without the numbers, it's very hard. So until you track and optimize these metrics to a T, you're just going to unnecessarily waste money on marketing. And again, after working with hundreds of clients, hundreds of advisors, doing hundreds of consulting calls as well, there's three metrics that matter the most. Okay. And if you're going to track these three. Number one, cost per shown appointment. What does it cost you to get somebody shown up on the other line, in a Zoom meeting, in person? What's your cost per shown appointment? That's number one. Number two is your average deal value, right? What is one client typically worth to you? If you're doing 1%, what's the average kind of case size that's coming in? Metric number three would be appointment close rate. So down to an actual number, what percentage of those appointments, those first shown appointments, actually close into clients? If you know these, you can operate with a much higher level of clarity, still not as high of a level as you would if you had everything in front of you. But this is your business. When you operate around just like whatever you feel like and whatever you think and kind of the latest coolest new things, you're just going to keep spending money and giving money to all the wrong people. This is why most firms just keep getting burned. Versus your business, when all your marketing, all your efforts, team members, outside consultants are all aligned on core KPIs. Okay, that's what you want. So let's look at some averages, some projections. What should these three numbers actually be? What should they look like? Because this is really the important stuff, right? We could talk about metrics and what we want to track, but what should the values actually be? Well, I'll just tell you here, for cost per shown appointment, we really don't want to see any more than $250 per booked appointment, per shown appointment. Okay. And, obviously your numbers are going to vary. Like for us, this is just for us, one of our campaigns for clients, right? Multiple clients are running on this campaign here. Just in the past month, this is the month of September, 2024. We're at $134 per qualified call. These are $1 million plus bookings. So these are people with $1 million or more in assets that are scheduling in meetings. We had over 2,000, almost 2,400 applications come in with $1 million or more. And yeah, like 500 meetings scheduled. And so like, obviously your numbers might look different, right? This is just what we're currently getting right now on just one of our campaigns. We have campaigns that are lower. We have campaigns that are higher, depending on, what the actual demographic is and the target is. But yeah, you don't want to be above 250, right? At all. Average deal value is, for us, average is around 750,000 currently. This is typically what we see coming in. This is just inside of our database of, just again, one of our campaigns. So these are actual people scheduling in with clients of ours. You'll see these are actual clients that these appointments are being distributed and sent to. These are scheduled meetings. So this person has 550, or is that 5.5 million? That's 550, 550,000. Most advisors, they'll set their minimum at around 500,000. So this person has 4.6 million. This person has 6.7 million. So just historically, we haven't really, and anything that says skipped is just, they're just too low. So they were filtered out. So, we typically don't see very many people with less than $1 million. It's like most people have $1 million or more. That's just kind of like the stage of life that, if you're in retirement and you don't have at least $1 million, like you're kind of in a tough spot. So we attract a lot of people. So again, your averages are going to vary. Close rate is, we aim for at least 30%. We do have clients that are lower than that. We have clients that, they might be newer in the industry and they're getting like 20%, sometimes 15%. If they're really just learning, kind of ramping up, but you do want to be around 30%. Okay. And so like, we'll just look at an example. If you put $5,000 into the machine, into your marketing, and you're at 250 an appointment, you're going to get 16 shown appointments. And that means if you're at an average of 750 in assets, that equates to about $12 million in pipeline value, and 3 deals close if you're at a 30% close rate on those appointments. Which means you're pacing right around $1.8 million a month, which is, depending on your firm, it's decent, right? But of course, these numbers, once you actually know them and they're locked in, you can, with a very high level of predictability, hit certain targets. So if you say, I want to add $50 million to my firm, rather than it just being airy-fairy pixie dust, you now have an input and output equation in your business, which means that if you're pacing $1.8 million a month, if you spend $5,000 a month on your paid ads, then it's going to take you 27 months to hit that target, which is pretty good. Like now you have an actual number. If that's too slow for you, then that you're either going to have to dramatically improve, like typically by 30%, improve these metrics, or you're going to have to spend more. It's that simple. If you want to scale faster, know your numbers and optimize them. So either you optimize your numbers and you make them better, so you improve each of these metrics by 30% or more, or you spend more money, or both. That's it. That's literally what growth is. That's what all big companies at every level do. They just keep doing this. They just look at their numbers, they make them better, or they spend more money, or they do both. Ideally, you do both, right? And that's how you grow. It's that simple, right? But you can't do it if you don't know the numbers, because what gets measured gets managed, and what's not measured cannot be managed, period. And so these metrics have to be tracked. They can't slip at any point. And I touched on this a moment ago. You might be wondering, well, why do I have to spend $5,000 on ads? Why do I have to spend money? Because in business, when it comes to growing, when it comes to expanding, there's only 2 forms of energy and capital. There's human capital and there's monetary capital. That's it. If you want to grow, you are going to expend energy. There have to be calories burned to grow. That's the bottom line. And so either you are going to spend your time and energy, or you're going to hire other people and spend money to have them spend their time. That's it. That is it. You're either spending time and energy or you're spending money. So you're always spending something. So like this cost per shown appointment, this is still a cost. Maybe you're going out and you're cold calling and you're spending 8 hours a day cold calling. Well, take your hourly rate. What do you make per year divided by the amount of hours you work in a year? And maybe you set 3 appointments a day. Well, there you go. Right now you have a cost per shown appointment. There's always a cost. There's no way to do this shit for free. It's not possible. But I'll show you what it actually looks like when you dial this in to where you can do it without a marketing budget. It effectively becomes free. So we'll look at that in a moment. So I want to introduce a concept called client finance acquisition. All right, because when you're able to measure and manage your numbers to a point, and you're just able to dial it in, and you get your cost, this number right here, your actual cost to acquire, your cost per acquisition, your cost per client closed, down to a certain point, you are pretty much able to create a flywheel where every new client that you bring on brings on another client. And it becomes so incredibly easy to scale. And I'll just show you what this looks like and just kind of sketch it out for you. It's not that complicated, really. Let's just say you close a client. We'll call this client 1, and you're charging, let's say you make $10,000 a year on this client. So it's $1 million a case. You're charging 1%. And by the way, excuse my horrendous handwriting. I'm a digital marketer. Okay, I'm not a writer, but and let's just say it costs you about $1,200 to acquire this client and onboard them into your firm. Okay, so that's your client acquisition cost, your CAC. And then additionally, you obviously have to fulfill services for this client and do everything that your firm does for this client. So let's just say that's $1,000, right, per year to actually fulfill for this client. Okay, so that would be your cost of goods, or your fulfillment costs, right? So the cool thing is, you're making $10,000 a year, and obviously, this number varies depending on what you offer and what you do. It wildly varies, but the main thing is you're making $10,000 per year, costs you, $1,200 to acquire, and costs you $1,000 to fulfill. Okay, so total of $2,200, and you're very much in the green. So you've acquired this client, and things are looking good. So basically, both of these are covered by the amount you're making year one. Now, the cool thing is you now still have money left over, a lot of money. And so you can now go out, because you've dialed in your client acquisition costs down to a point where you're not spending a whole lot of money or a whole lot of time to get because again, money and time interchangeable to acquire this client. And it's pretty automated, it's systemized, and it's efficient to get this client on board, and it costs you, you're able to do it cheaply. You got margin. So now you can go out and you can acquire client number 2, so C2, okay? And you can effectively do the exact same thing, because now you've just, the amount that you make off client 1 covers the cost to acquire that client, to fulfill for that client, and covers the cost to acquire the next client, which means you can just repeat this process, rinse and repeat, right? With, C4, 5, 6, up to 1,000. And you can just scale your amount of households. And so look, this is what it looks like. It's this simple, because like I said, once you dial in these numbers, it becomes extremely easy and almost difficult to not scale. It becomes difficult. Now, you might in your firm already have a method that gets you clients for a pretty low acquisition cost. Okay, so you might be at 1,200, you might be lower, you might be a little bit higher, whatever it is. Maybe you have this way. Here's the catch, though. Here's the catch. In order to do this and to scale it, number one, of course, has to be actually scalable. So you have to be able to scale it, and it has to be pretty much automated, right? So it has to be pretty much automated, because if you're having to spend a whole lot of time doing this stuff, that again adds to the cost. And it also has to be actually, consistent, right? It has to be consistent. You have to be able to do this over and over and over and over again without getting tired, without getting burnt out, without burning your team out. And so if you have all these things in check, right? So the cost checkout and these are all in place, then effectively what you've got is a system that you could just push a ton of volume through, right? You could just keep pushing volume through it and it just won't break. And at a certain scale it might break, but it becomes very easy to get to ridiculous levels. This is how we as a company, we hit, over $400,000 in a month in straight up revenue. And this is how all firms scale. This is how they do it, right? So it's not that complicated, but you've got to have all the numbers down correctly, okay? And by the way, I want to note, if you have this in place, right? If you have a system that gets you clients at the right cost, is actually scalable, automated, and you're able to push more volume through it, do that and double down on that. Do not book a call with us. Don't come and ask for our help and pay anyone else money. Just do more of what works. And by the way, if your firm already has this, you already have a way to acquire clients at a low enough cost, and you're tracking things and it's automated, you're able to push more volume through the machine, just do more of that. Don't book a call with us. Don't come and ask for our help. Don't hire another marketing company. Don't do anything. Just do more of what works. That's what I've learned. Just if you have something that's working that checks out on all these, just push more volume through it and just do it until it breaks. And that's how you scale a business, like I said. So again, these are the metrics. Most firms, they just have too high of a cost per shown appointment. They're just talking to people with too little an investable capital. Like if you're talking to people with 250, 300, 400, like just increase your minimum. You might think, oh, I don't want to weed people out. Just increase your minimum and you will see your calendar will be booked out with people that fit that minimum. You just have to be able to say no to the people that you can't work with, right? But maybe your model doesn't support that. So you need a lower cost per shown appointment, right? You need a higher close rate. Most firms are not really struggling in the close rate department. They still don't know what their close rate is, but they're not really struggling there, right? So this is probably a less likely problem. It's usually these two that can really be optimized and juiced up. And so yeah, just by maxing these out, you create that flywheel, and it's a beautiful thing. And again, knowing and optimizing your numbers gives you the confidence to be able to scale, because this is what the big firms have. How does Fisher spend $300,000 a month on Facebook? It's because they know, if I acquire 50 appointments scheduled, right? Or let's say even 44 appointments scheduled, there's a 40% probability of that happening. I get 40 appointments scheduled and, I'm closing at a 20%, let's say, which is terrible. I'm closing at a 20%. I know that the value on that is going to be $52,000 in the first year on just those new clients, right? Which means I spend $12,000 on ads and I'm going to get $52,000 out. And I know that over a lifetime, though, those clients are going to be worth $400,000. And I also know that, with referrals over a lifetime, if on average 50% of my clients refer another client, which your referral rate might be a lot higher. You might have someone referring, every client refers another client. Like that happens pretty often. It would be 800,000. So I spend 12 grand and I get 800,000 lifetime value. It's knowing these numbers. It gives you the confidence to go out and spend, whether that's spending money on paid advertising, whether that's spending money on hiring a team to automate messaging or something like that, whatever your strategy is. Again, you have to spend regardless. You're going to pay either way, but it gives you the confidence to know this is what I can spend to acquire a client. This is what I'm going to make over a lifetime. I've done the math. I've projected it out, right? It's incredibly important. And so, yeah, once you're able to do this, you get pretty crazy results. This is a cool little case study from a client who came on board, and as soon as we dialed everything in, dialed his numbers in, and we knew where to allocate our actual capital, and we knew exactly where to spend money.
I said, I've got $9 million in the pipeline. I'm in the bed soon. I've got $9 million in the pipeline in the last 2 weeks on a $1,200 ad spend. Is that typical?
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it's $9 million of people that I've talked to and still have future appointments, like stuff that I'm working on. In 2 weeks, on $1,200 ad spend. It's crazy. I just quit Ramsey. I just sent an email. I quit Ramsey. I've never had 9 million pipeline in 2 weeks, and this is the first 2 weeks. I got to run. I got to get to the office to make this call. Call me if you need anything. But you see what I'm talking about.
So you're able to pull off some pretty crazy numbers. 6x returns, 10x returns, 5x returns at scale. Turning $16,000 in marketing spend into $49,000. If you want to pause this and read it, this is what it means. Just playing the numbers out once you know what your metrics are, right? So we've got a million case studies. I'm sure you've seen them everywhere. We've blasted case studies all over the place. We've got hundreds of client stories and client wins and stuff, which is awesome. But the other last piece that I'll touch on here is consistency, right? Because again, this has to be consistent. These numbers have to be consistent. And I'll just give you a personal story of ours. And this is not a fun story to tell. This was just a very bad situation overall. When we initially got into the space, we had a really good run. We were getting incredible client results. And the thing is, there's always market swings and corrections. And with those swings and corrections come changes in market sentiment. So the sentiment of investors change, and the content, the marketing that they respond to changes. And so we were initially crushing it for clients, and we had a great run. And around 2020, 2021, when the market dipped a lot, to say the least, because if you remember, we were in that unusually long bull market, and we were getting great results during that period, but everything shifted. What the content people were responding to, everything shifted, and just the market took a crazy turn, obviously, and pretty much all of our campaigns stopped performing overnight. Overnight, everything stopped performing. And we even noticed this like in little increments where maybe it wasn't a big crash, but it was just slight changes in the sentiment. It would impact the consistency of our results. And so effectively everything stopped performing. And we had to refund over $500,000 in client retainers and fees paid to us, and rework our entire fulfillment process. Because now, our process now, present day, is designed to pretty much just support the bull and bear, fear and greed, market cycles. And it took over a year to figure out. We pissed off a lot of clients in the process. It was just not a good situation, but obviously we're stronger for it, and trial by fire, it's part of the game. But yeah, like you need a process that's able to withstand any swings in the market, because stuff like this can throw your KPIs and your metrics way off whack, and you don't want that at all, right? So just whether or not you work with us, just vet every marketing hire, every marketing partner for this criteria. Just ensure that they understand how each of these individual small metrics impact each other, because they're all interconnected. And if a single one is misaligned, the entire system fails. Okay, and ideally, making sure that whoever you're working with is looking just beyond the big three, looking at all the little metrics behind the scenes as well. So that's that. Hopefully this was insightful, valuable. I appreciate your time and attention, and yeah, take care.